Select Board of Thursday, February 5th, 2026. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Adoption of the agenda. No switcheroos.
Looks good to me.
Hey, Matt.
All right.
You good? Where
Yep, I'm good.
Looks like you're in San Francisco.
Yeah. It feels like San Francisco. It's about 50 degrees.
Is it?
Oh.
Yeah, it's supposed to warm up.
Yeah, I'll bring the warm weather in for when you come.
I'm headed that way tomorrow.
Oh, we've got double.
There you go.
All right.
There we go.
Select Board announcements?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Nothing. All right. Town Administrator's report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I just have a couple of items. Previously, the Deputy Town Administrator and Treasurer, Terry Gaudette, had mentioned to the board that we plan to submit an application to the Maine Bond Bank for our $6 million borrowing for the Emergency Services Building. But recently, we learned that the project is not likely to break ground until September, and that we would be better served by applying in the fall. So she did not submit an application, and she wanted me to report to you that the plan will be to submit one in the fall.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, she filled me in.
Okay, great. And the other item I just want to make sure the public is aware of, on Wednesday, February 11th at 6 o'clock at the Harpswell Community School, there will be public hearings on the secret ballot items. One of the articles has to do with the appropriation for Curtis Memorial Library, and the second secret ballot item has to do with Clark Cove. So we will be at the Harpswell Community School on Route 24 on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock for that public hearing. And those are required because people will not be discussing those two issues on the floor at the March 14th town meeting. They will be voting on them by referendum. So I just want to make sure people understand that process. Thank you.
Consent agenda?
I move that good old consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes, of committee appointments, and authorization of the warrants.
I second it.
All right. I see no discussion. All in favor?
I don't think you could see my hand, so I'll say aye.
Yeah, that'll work. All right, we have a wharf application of Jeffrey and Alice Lynch.
Tim Clark with codes. Project address is 15 North Point Lane off of Tondrell Point. It's map 48, lot 62. Small ramp, float, and a pier. Although it is in a subdivision, there is no deeded community wharf with this lot or area. There was no other abutters there. No eelgrass, no clamming areas, and no navigation problems.
I see they have a place for a haul out.
And there was a haul out to the right of the building, correct? And it's over 25 feet to the butter lot line.
You okay with it, Matt?
Yep.
Yep. Good with it? All right, then I move to approve the application as the harbor master indicates. There's no hazard in navigation, no injury to the rights of others in relation to fishing, fouling, or navigating.
Thank you.
You second it?
I'll second it.
All right. I don't see any discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That was easy. Harpswell Community Garden Grant application.
Hi, I'm Susie Hanley. I'm here representing the folks that have submitted the grant. I'll answer any questions that you have.
No, not usually.
I have one, Susie. I have one. Under infrastructure and capital expenditures, you're going to put in a new picnic table under the pergola to provide adequate workspace for gardeners, volunteers, campers. What are those, I'm hoping those are day campers you're talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. They,
Picturing putting, tents down there.
No.
Okay.
no, but, it's a space that fits 2 tables. We're replacing one, and then we're going to try to refurbish the other,
Yep.
and then maybe replace that another year.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve this application, and we can take it from there.
Yep.
I'll second it.
All right. I don't see any more discussion. All in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Easy enough. All right, finally. The draft of Wood Landing Road wharf lease with David Moody.
So this is a product of many months of discussion between the town and David Moody and his representative. David Moody currently has had a 25-year lease with the town of Harpswell. It was approved at the town meeting in 2001, and he was given 25 years to construct and operate a private wharf for commercial fishing at the end of Wood Landing Road, which is a town road. We're coming up on the end of that 25-year period, and the previous lease agreement was with David and Diane Moody, and now he's recommending that he would like that to be with David Moody and Patricia Moody. He also would like this to be for the duration of their lives, essentially, and that they have the opportunity to assign it with the town's permission, if they so choose. We are continuing to say that whatever public access rights currently exist there, they will continue to exist. And at the end of this, when this lease terminates, the town would have the ability to take over ownership of this wharf, assuming that it was in good condition. We do require in this lease agreement an annual inspection by the town of Harpswell, and this will have to be maintained and kept in structurally good condition over the period of time that it exists. So this is a proposal that the Select Board has been working on, as I said, and we have made it public this week. It's available for review, inspection, and it is, with the board's approval, going to be a warrant article at the March 14th town meeting.
Well, you know what? If Dave's happy, I am.
Yes. David, I'm sorry it took so long.
Well, I'm good with putting it before the town meeting.
I think it's going to be in substantially this form. We do have the warrant article in the warrant, so when you discuss that, you can look at the specific wording, but
When we get to
it
it.
refers to this agreement and says that the board would sign something in substantially this, form that you see in front of you now.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Could there be a typo? Could there be,
Yeah.
a little bit of tweaking? But substantively, it will not change.
Yep.
Yep.
Anything, any concerns, any comments?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm good with it.
Nope, it's good.
Took one
Okay,
out.
great.
And we'll see it at the end of this book, right? So,
What's that?
When you review the
We'll see it at
warrant,
the end, yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
you will see it.
be good to see it. All right, we're good there?
Yep.
Yep. All right. Request from Attorney Collins regarding wharf systems in subdivisions.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Collins. I'm an attorney at Preddy Flaherty, and I represent Dave and Laura Abel, as well as the Muddy family, both of whom have homes in the High Head neighborhood and have been faced with a realization over the last year after a similar sort of dock application came forward to the planning board and the town attorney rendered an opinion that even though they're in a quite old subdivision, because that subdivision has a community dock, they're barred by the ordinance from being able to do what they had very much planned to do when they bought their residences, which was to be able to put in their own private docks. I will say that when I first saw Attorney Chow's opinion, I'm not saying it's wrong by any means in terms of what the ordinance may mean, but I was quite surprised to see that the term subdivision would be applied to something that was pre-1971. For those in the High Head community, that's particularly relevant because their subdivision, if you can even call it that, was pre-1971, and that's really important under the statute because that is the date that defines when a subdivision could have been created. So if you look at the old plan for the High Head community from 1965, it was actually approved by a board of selectmen. So we have no idea what standard the board may have been approving it by at that time. We don't know how much thought was put into the fact that there was a community dock. High Head in particular is a very large community. If they had known that in the future they weren't going to be able to put in their own docks, I venture to say that they would have put in something that was larger or maybe 2 access points. It's one thing for modern subdivisions that come to the planning board and are operating by this ordinance that they all know is effective and applicable to them, and they plan their development accordingly. So for these people buying into a subdivision, which actually in the High Head case, their covenants that apply to them specifically say that they can have private docks. So what the town did by passing this ordinance, to the extent it does apply to them, is take away a right that that subdivision and all the lots in it already had. So one very narrow way to deal with this and reflect the fact that probably when this prohibition was written, it was not intended to apply to these very old subdivisions or developments, would be to just say, we're going to match the state statute and keep the definition of a subdivision at 1971. If it was a development that was approved before that, we agree that in line with the statute, it's not a subdivision, and these folks can build private docks. But I was curious, and I know that Harpswell in particular has a lot of these old developments. And so I was curious, having looked at High Head and seen that there's a lot of private docks there that probably were put in some cases before the ordinance, but actually in some cases after the ordinance too. So the community is peppered with private docks. And I thought, there probably are other old developments like this in town that also have a smattering of private docks. So I'm going to hand out just a few examples. I just looked at 4 communities: Indian Rest, Johnson Point, High Head, and what's called Long Reach Mountain, but that's actually Lumbo's Hole. Yep. Each of those was formed, a long time ago, certainly before the ordinance. Indian Rest, here, I'm going to hand this out before I start talking about it.
Well,
Thank you.
here,
That'll be Matt's. I'll give Matt that one.
hold it up for Matt.
I'll scan it.
But each of them is pretty old. Indian Rest is all the way back to 1900. Johnson Point, 1973. High Head, as I said, was 1965. Long Reach Mountain, 1975. And this is just going through the assessment records, what I could find in terms of residences within those old communities that have their own private docks. I don't want to call out anybody specifically, but just looking through these, I found at least 4 examples of relatively brand new construction that clearly the lot was undeveloped and then a home and a dock were put on it. I believe since the ordinance was put in place. For example, there's one in High Head that's from 2017. So what this tells me is that if we're trying to have fair treatment between what the town has traditionally allowed, both before and after the ordinance, and sort of what the playing field is going to be going forward, it would seem fair to me that the cutoff might actually be when the ordinance was drafted and passed by town meeting, that should be the cutoff date. Just like so many other things that we do in zoning, where you're grandfathered if you came in before the provision was enacted.
So that's the 1971 date you're talking about.
Well, so there are two options. So the option that I've given you, which is all my clients in High Head need, is to have the definition of subdivision for this section be in line with the definition of subdivision under the statute, 1971. But if you look at the broader, kind of scheme of things in town, you see that there has been this pattern in these older subdivisions where people do have their private docks, and to let others in those community have the same fair treatment, the language there would be just like any other nonconformity provision in an ordinance, which is you look at the date that the ordinance was passed, and if it was a subdivision that was created before that, that would be grandfathered and exempt. And I'm sure that there are people in some of these communities who have owned their properties since well before the ordinance, and then are now under a playing field where maybe they thought one day if they saved up enough money, they'd be able to build a dock, but now they can't. And, I don't know exactly what the rationale of the ordinance was when it was passed. I think it was trying to do something sort of in line of what state DEP looks at with dock permits, where they do an alternatives analysis. And if you have other means of access that's reasonably convenient to you, sometimes you can't get a state dock permit. In the Abels case, they got through that state alternatives analysis, and the DEP found that there was no other reasonable alternative for what they needed, but it's the town's ordinance that's holding them back. So the ask would be, again, rather than for both of these two clients of mine, they both have dock projects that are imminent, we could go to the planning board and assuming get denied, and then it turns into an appeal, which is going to come down to, they can't have meant subdivisions pre-1971. And also, I think there's a question of whether it's a taking of private property rights where, people had the ability to build docks. Now they can't. It is a bit arbitrary in that if I'm not in a subdivision, but there's a community dock, or a town dock down the road, I still can build a private dock, but somebody in a development can't. So, that's what a case would look like. But I think as a matter of policy, the town probably didn't extend or intend to extend this language back as far as it's being applied. And so an easy fix, particularly with town meeting coming up, would be to do something like this amendment, or if you wanted to go further, do sort of a traditional grandfathering thing, and tag it to the date of the ordinance amendment. So that's what we're proposing. Thank you for putting us on the agenda so quickly.
Oh, just a couple of
Yes.
questions. Now, there's quite a few private docks down at High Head now. How did they get around the covenants at the time?
There's no covenant preventing installation of private docks. In fact, the covenants there say the opposite. How did they get around the ordinance? I don't know.
Well, I can guess.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't know off the top of my head when the ordinance was passed. I think it was in the early 2000s.
I think it was 2007, but
I can speak
When-
to the case that kind of triggered this because I was on the planning board at that time. And it was kind of an oddball case that the person ended up getting denied. And it was because that specific property itself had been recorded in a subdivision plan post 1971 because the previous landowner had made some lot adjustments to accommodate a second lot he had in order to build the second house. And when that happened, those lots got recorded in a subdivision plan, therefore triggering that ordinance to come in and kind of nullify them from being able to have a wharf on that property. I don't necessarily know if that same thing would happen for these two clients that she's representing, if they're because that was something the planning board looked at the time, was that had been recorded in a subdivision plan post 1971. And where their properties may not have been, they may be able to get this through the planning board without us changing any ordinances at all.
Well, we would have thought that, except for that Mr. Haggerty, also in High Head, so with the same situation, was denied by the planning board based on this ordinance. So we know that
Yeah.
if he was denied, these ones would likely be denied as well.
The Haggerty was the one that his lot lines had been moved and his lots had been recorded in a subdivision plan post 1971.
I see what you mean.
At point of interest, I was the chairman of the planning board in 2019 when we did that, so, yeah. It all comes around in a big circle, doesn't it?
I think what started it is the number of docks that were popping up all over town.
Understood.
It was a stopgap.
Yeah, and I can see that being a valid reason for sure.
The last sentence, in fact, in 15.3.9 is to protect natural resources from overdevelopment. So, and if every lot in a subdivision had a wharf, that would certainly be counter to that idea. I have a question on, you proposed adding a sentence to the end of the subdivision ordinance 9.17. Wouldn't that sentence, in effect, eliminate the entire paragraph?
9.17?
Yeah. I mean, you're proposing adding this section shall not apply to prohibit the construction of a wharf, pier, dock, and/or float by the purchase of a subdivision lot if otherwise permissible under town of Harpswell ordinances. It seems like that would just eliminate that entire paragraph.
I don't think so, because it's just referring back to 15.3.9, which, as changed, then would allow a dock only in this specific case if it was pre-1971. So 9.17 would still be its sort of general prohibition, but then since that other section allows it, it would be okay. This is not the only way to skin the cat the way that I wrote this by any means, but
Okay, well, I just got this
Start.
note from the town attorney just at the beginning of the meeting. I haven't really had a chance to
Yeah.
read it.
So as a staff person, I do want to say, we did not share with the board the opinion that you mentioned in your letter. And our attorney was not able to come tonight. However, the town planner and myself, we had a brief conversation with Amy Chow, who did write that opinion that was for the planning board, I believe, at the time. And we talked about that the board probably ought to have some type of session with your attorney. I know Attorney Collins has raised some legal issues tonight, and I think as a staff member, it may not be appropriate for you to make any decision until you've had a conversation with your town attorney about next steps. So I know there's a sense you want to move relatively quickly, but I don't know that all of these process pieces can happen in time for March 14th, but obviously we have June referendum, we have November, so that time period may not be great, but it would be very difficult to get something like this before the town for this March 14th town meeting.
as far as my math goes, it would require a referral to the planning board tonight. But I would think, obviously, it would still come back to the select board before you put anything on a warrant.
Right.
So you could still refer it to the planning board, have your session with the town attorney whenever she's available, and rely in part on the planning board's feedback, rely in part on Amy's advice before making a decision to put it on the warrant.
That was
For
my
the
thoughts anyway.
Ables, at least, they have a state permit that's,
Yeah.
going to run out.
That was my thought, that we would refer this to the planning board.
That's what I told our town planner tonight, that I'm setting it that way. As far as High Head goes, the gate's been open, we've issued permits. Like 2017, I think, was the last one.
That's the one that I'm looking at, yeah. But I think the difference is now we have that opinion from Amy Chow, and it is broad enough that I think that might have been Haggerty's position with the change to the subdivision, but that's not how Amy's opinion turned. It was purely on sort of a broad definition of subdivision.
I'm okay with trying to get this straightened out.
Yeah,
Very much appreciated.
I have to tell you, I've listened to every word you've said and absorbed it as best I can, so we'll try to move this on.
Might be overkill, but would you mind hearing from my clients as well?
Well, if
Sure.
they'd like,
I
sure.
wonder what they're gonna say.
I don't know.
Are you okay with sending the planning board, Matt?
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Laura Abel, and I live, my husband Dave, who's just a day off of hip surgery, so he's
Nope.
on Zoom.
Uh.
And we live at 209 High Head Road, and we were hoping actually a referral to the planning board to tighten up the definition of subdivision and when, ordinances come into effect. And I appreciate the reference to that lot line adjustment plan that Mr. Gilly was talking about, because that is a differentiation. We do, as Kristen had said, we have our DEP permit, and we have our Army Corps of Engineers permit to build a dock. And there are a couple of reasons. We have been on the water our entire lives, and when we looked at the house and saw that there was this deep water access, we use our boats way beyond what people in Maine tend to do, we've discovered. We start early, well before Memorial Day, and we like to haul at the end of November or just before Thanksgiving.
You'd be a good lobster hauler.
We use the water. We are very, so excuse me, I get very, very nervous, so I apologize.
Relax. There's nobody watching but us.
Right, I know. So my husband, the writer, he felt, but anyway, so when we first bought the house, we came to town hall to explore what we needed to do to get a dock, because we have just some sheer and then a couple of ledges, and you're like, oh my God, this is this is amazing. There's an existing mooring right in front of our house, and we spoke with Chris Plummer, the harbor master, and he had said to us, yeah, and this, he can't guarantee. He says your problems will be with the DEP and alternatives analysis, and your neighbors. You need to get buy-in from your neighbors. Well, the neighbor to the south of us has a dock, and the neighbor to the north of us we spoke to, and they said, great, go for it. And so with that in mind, we hired Bob Waddle, who in turn hired Tim Forrester. We wanted to do this absolutely right and get all the appropriate, get it all laid out and permits and everything. So we did that. And we went through, we talked to Tim quite extensively about the alternatives analysis. Our lot is half a mile on the road from our yacht club, and when we put our inflatable in there, it takes us 20 minutes to get down to our mooring, which is, 25 yards off our house. So that when we have more than just Dave and me, going to the boat, it's, 40 minutes back and forth ferrying people. And so it's not, if we had, we're not sure that we would have even bought the house because of this kind of complication. The yacht club at High Head they launch the docks in end of May, and they pull them, in the middle of October. So that leaves us almost a month on either side that we have no access. We have a boat ramp there, but we don't have any trailers for our inflatable to put it on, drive it down, that kind of deal. And we have no stairs or anything currently to the water from our house. So we have no way of getting to the water at our house. So we just wanted to do it right. And so we were really surprised with that. One of the reasons, too, we looked at Harpswell so much was this working waterfront definition. And every morning I see 2 lobster boats going, right? And I'm like, oh, the pink boat's out. I don't know the name of it, I can't remember. But, that gives us such great pleasure. And we also are customers of 2 local boatyards and all the ancillary, pieces that go along with it. So there's, a different way also, and a more expansive way of looking at the working waterfront is what I guess I'm trying to say. And so we just, with all due respect, ask that we define when a subdivision is a subdivision, these ones that predate any state statute that defines what a subdivision is,
Yep.
that perhaps there can be some clarification on the ordinance, the protection ordinance, so that perhaps we can get this. So I can answer any questions you have, or just we really are grateful that you've given us the time
Oh, sure.
to hear us. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you very
No,
much.
thanks.
And Chris Muddy is online. He might want to say a word.
Yeah. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. So, hello, members of the select board. This is the first time I've done this kind of thing, so I'm a little nervous too. But my name is Chris Muddy. I apologize for not being able to be there in person, but my patient schedule had to be added to today to accommodate a bunch of weather reschedulings. So this is kind of our story, just so you kind of understand where we're coming from. Myself, together with my wife, Mindy, who's here with me, and my dad, RJ, who's there at the meeting, we purchased the home at 187 High Head this past May. My dad lives there full-time, and Mindy and I will soon be full-time residents. My dad was born and raised in Lewiston, and in 1975, his job as an orthopedic surgeon took our family to Western New York, and that's where I grew up. Every year, our family's been back to Maine to visit our extended family. And my mom passed away in June 2024 in Rome, New York, and in her final days in hospice, she was at peace believing she was back in Maine, surrounded by her family. So a generations-long dream of our family has been to be back in Maine at home on the water with a dock. So we began our search for a home in Maine in the fall of 2024. It was tough to find properties that had what we were.
Hang on a second. We can't hear you right now for some reason.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me
Technical
now?
difficulties. Don't know.
Try it again.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me?
No.
Still a little low.
Oh, sorry. I don't know
Try
if
it
it's on
again.
mine. Let's try this.
Great.
Say
Can
something.
you hear me now?
No, you got worse.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry.
If you can't get it going, I have this.
You get the script?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
Oh, there
yeah,
you go.
Dave got my script.
Oh, there you
So-
are.
Oh,
All right, you're back.
Okay, but you're back.
Oh, okay. All right. So sorry. I'll continue. I'll try to get through this. It's only a few minutes long. So again, we began our search for the home in fall of 2024, and we were looking for basically a place with 1-floor living access for my dad, a workshop, and direct deep water access with a dock out the back door. That's tough to find. After months of coming up empty, I reached out to Ron Hutchins at Harpswell Realty Group and Lori Haggerty at Roxanne Real Estate, and between the two of them, we had a great list of places to check out. One of Lori's properties really stood out, and that was 187 High Head. It checked all the boxes except there was not a pre-existing dock, just a stairway with a float that never floats. That made me nervous because this was a crucial component for us. Our potential new neighbor to the north had a really nice dock, and on the map I could see all the residential docks along the shore. Lori was able to provide me a copy of the High Head Association handbook, which I read and reread to verify that a dock is allowed on each lot. Neither my dad nor I have ever been part of a home association before, and I was wary of the rules and regulations, but it was clearly written that a dock on each lot was permitted. I found a local dock builder, that's Bob, who surveyed the shore at 187 to verify the physical feasibility of building a dock. So with all signs pointing to yes on building the dock at 187, the last box was checked and we moved forward with buying the property. We closed on the property in May of 2025, and last summer we made the move to Maine. So it was a 50-year wait for my dad to return. It was finally over. Before we were unpacked, I got Bob over to the house and we laid out the dock design. All was great until several weeks later when he called to say there was a problem with the dock application nearby. I was stunned and scrambled to find the handbook, and once again read into the section spelling out that a dock was permitted. As I learned more about the complication with the nearby dock application, I learned about 15.3.9, and which doesn't permit new docks in subdivisions where a community dock exists. And then I went back and I was trying to think to myself how to put this all together. The High Head Handbook, which states there is a dock allowed on each lot, was established in the 1960s. And that community dock on High Head is about 3/4 of a mile on the road from our house. And I intend to be active in helping to maintain that dock for our neighbors that don't have direct deep water access from their lots. But the main purpose of us buying that lot was to have direct deep water access. The association handbook and the law, at least to me as a layperson, seem clear that docks have been permitted on individual lots on High Head and have been built over the years since 1971. When I talked to the head of the planning board, thinking maybe we could just talk this over, she was really friendly, and she gave me that copy of the legal opinion on the nearby dock application. And I humbly disagree with that opinion as a layperson the way I read it. Again, I'm not a lawyer. So now I am kind of worried. We kind of put everything into this move. We tried to do our homework to make our generation's long dream a reality. And I'm just respectfully asking the members of the board to please reconsider this issue and allow residential docks in the Harpswell communities where they were traditionally permitted and allowed. So thanks a lot for hearing the story. I know it was long, and I appreciate your time.
No, fine. Thanks. Anybody else want to talk to this, other than Tim?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Forrester with Flycatcher. I'm a local environmental consultant, and I've been permitting dock projects in Harpswell in the state of Maine for 27 years. Well, in full disclosure, I do represent both the clients that Attorney Collins mentioned this evening. But the only comment that I want to add is about High Head itself and some of the past projects that have been permitted. I believe one of those, at least one of those, was a project that I worked on, and it's my opinion that the code office at that time had interpreted the ordinance to basically say that from 2009 prior, those structures were grandfathered. So I think from when those were permitted up until now, I believe the town has just looked at it more deeply and taken a change of role on how that ordinance is looked at. In my opinion, someone who bought land someone who bought a parcel within a subdivision prior to that ordinance change, I feel they should have the right to wharf out. Going back to the early 70s, and the point that Attorney Collins made is great, but I personally feel like it should be from 2009 prior, should be grandfathered. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. All right.
Oh, I think Margaret wants to speak.
Hi, guys. Margaret McIntyre, the town planner, and I want to say hi to Clifford and Marshall at home. They're watching with my mom. Yeah. You guys know my mom. She loves a municipal meeting. So I just want to say that Harpswell adopted a new comprehensive plan in November. And, searching through this request, I thought we need to make it in compliance with the newly adopted comprehensive plan that we worked 4.5 long years on. And it addresses private residential docks on page 1-26, and it says, the goal is to enhance and maintain the marine ecosystem, and it aims to do that by limiting the number of private docks and the size of floats in order to protect eelgrass meadows. So while we're all discussing this ordinance amendment, I just want to make sure that everybody understands what the comp plan says about how to handle private docks.
Well, we don't allow docks or floats in eelgrass systems anyway. And if we do, it has to be a special type of framework, usually aluminum, if there's any eelgrass present, to allow light to penetrate.
I think that's the
The
state.
more docks
state
and
that
more
does
we
that.
allow, the less eelgrass that's going to be able to come back, though, I think is the point of that in the
Yeah.
comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
The
to
more
allow,
space we
yeah.
leave open, the more chance it has for restoration, too.
But as far as the deep water docks go, it doesn't necessarily apply.
Just saying.
Yep.
That's what the compliment says.
That-
Thank you.
The comp plan is just a suggestion.
Yeah, but
Afterwards.
it's a framework for all of our land use ordinances, and we can't have one that's in conflict with the comp plan.
You don't want to blatantly ignore it just because it's a suggestion.
And it's new.
We did the last one.
Margaret, while you're there, if it is referred to the planning board to hold a public hearing,
Yeah.
can you give us a sense of the time frame, timetable? I know you just had a public hearing last night.
We sure
on some
did.
ordinance changes.
Attorney Collins, we did just have our land use ordinance public hearing last night.
17 minutes long.
We need like 13 days of notice time between putting a notice in our lobby, and we have to put in 2 notices in the paper. They'll probably both have to go in the Portland Press Herald, so that'll cost the town a fair amount of money just because the Times Record only prints 1 day a week. Yeah, and then they'd hold it and get some public comment, and then we'd refer it back to you for how to handle it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons that I recommend you talk to your attorney is because there might be some options. And if you hold a public hearing on that language only, you might want time to consider
Right.
maybe some different language.
Right.
I just don't know exactly, but I think it's important for you to have a conversation
Oh,
with
yeah.
the town attorney.
Oh, yeah.
If you're just moving this language to a public hearing, I mean, that seems to be your sort of,
Can I ask a quick question? Is it feasible, Margaret, to even get, if we move forward with this language, with the time frame that we have, is it even feasible to get it onto the March town meeting?
I think so. According to Attorney Collins, I mean, it looks like we have time because you are not signing the warrant till the 5th, I think.
that's true, but we sent it to the printer around February 20th. And that's the version that gets mailed to all of the residents of Harpswell. And then you can add something under Maine law.
Right.
But is that good practice and policy? I don't know how much you want to give this time for the public to understand the issue and to
And the
know about it.
implications to, could be, it could be a significant amount of docks that could be either built or not built based
Yeah.
on this language.
Right.
But there all are other alternatives that we can propose as a town to, alternatives to Attorney Collins' language or our own clarifying language that we want to insert into the ordinance. So there's other ways that we can handle it, other than just holding a public hearing on this language. And maybe that's a conversation that we want to have. We can propose our own language.
I do think June might work because it gives a little more time for you to have that
So
conversation.
we do have another
consider,
opportunity in June, so.
And let the planning board have some input.
Yeah.
a little
I
breathing
think
space.
June's a better option,
Yeah.
myself personally, too. I don't want to see something rushed.
Things rushed through generally don't make it.
But I will say, even the June ballot item, it's got to be ready 60 days in advance, so we've got to have it ready by April. But I do think Attorney Chow was willing to contact Attorney Collins and just say, maybe this is a better timetable for us, but,
Right.
nothing has been decided
little
or
more
nothing
breathing
is
room.
firm at this point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret. All right.
So maybe we can get this meeting with the attorney before your meeting next week?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
could,
Yeah.
figure out
Yeah.
if you're ready to
See if we can do 5
recommend the
o'clock
next step and send it to the planning board, that type of thing.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
Is that gonna work?
Yep.
5 o'clock next week, if she can do it.
Okay.
All right. we're gonna be moving on then. Letter of support for Maine Outdoor Heritage Fund Grant. Oh, what the hell is that?
You want me to speak to this, Christy?
Sure.
Holly Parker at the Schiller Center reached out. They're applying for a grant to do some studies on PFAs in Harpswell Sound. And literally all they're looking for is a letter of support from the town. And this is something that we've worked in the Fisheries Committee on doing our own studies as well, and they were willing to share the data. This doesn't require any town resources whatsoever except the letter of support from the town is all they're asking for.
Yeah,
And there's a copy, there's a proposed letter right here.
Yep.
Yeah, I move that we give them this letter of support.
I was
I'll
going to have
second it.
the, okay, I was going to have the chair sign it, is that fine? But it does
Yeah.
say Harpswell Select Board signed by the chair.
The chair's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
Yeah, the chair's
I'll-
fine.
I'll include that in my motion.
I'll second that in his motion.
all right. I don't see any discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Here's what we all been waiting for.
Yay.
2026 draft warrant for March 14th.
So essentially what this document does is it takes the budget that you've reviewed and it puts the budget into warrant articles. It also takes land use ordinance changes or any other ordinance changes that the town might want to consider, and it puts those into warrant form. It does have an amendment to the comp plan because we learned from the state that we needed to make some changes to have it consistent with Maine's Growth Management Act. We've used this template that you're looking at tonight to match kind of the way we've approached annual town meetings for some time. We tend to put ordinance language up front. We are also proposing to put the David Moody lease near the front, and then to start the budget with Article 11. So I think it's important for the public to understand that this document is a document that the Select Board approves. And so if you want things in a different order, you certainly can give us some guidance. This is presented in draft form to you tonight, so you can give us some feedback on the way it's organized. We also want to be able to include whether you recommend articles or not. And again, it says recommended for the most part, but we really haven't gone through that phase with this board. So those are open to be changed. And I know there's always the issue with community television. We want to make sure you consider not necessarily participating in that recommendation.
Not necessarily, okay.
So I guess I'm looking for feedback. It's currently 55 articles. I think that's a little shorter than some of our more recent town meetings. We are planning to hold the town meeting at Harpswell Community School. And we do have a couple items, as I said, that would be voted on by secret ballot. The election of a select board member, 2 SAD 75, a board of directors, Curtis Library, and Clark Cove.
Were you planning to go through these tonight? Or?
I'm just really looking for your feedback, and the town planner is here, and she could maybe speak a little bit to the ordinance amendments, or you could wait until next week if you want. I mean, it's up to you. Do you want to hear a little bit about
Yeah,
there's,
we lost Matt.
oh, we did?
I'm here still.
Oh, I think,
He's hiding
Okay.
behind that piece of paper.
so we might go to
I am here.
Article 6. There we go.
I know we all love talking about ordinance amendments, guys. There's 4 proposed. They're all kind of housekeeping, in my opinion. The one that's up for basically land use ordinance is just, it's improving the administrative appeals section to be more consistent with state statute. It was pointed out by a municipal attorney last year that our language was not really clear and consistent, and so we worked with our municipal attorney to draft some language. It has gotten approval by, the chair of the Board of Appeals approves of the language, and we had a public hearing last night. Yeah, it doesn't change anything. It really maintains everybody's authority. It just improves the language.
Really clarifies.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Okay, and then Article 7 has to do with the definition of freshwater wetlands.
This is to fix an unintended consequence of the ordinance amendments in last year, 2025 town meeting. It has to do with how you define a freshwater wetland in the subdivision ordinance. We took language out of shoreline zoning, put it in definitions addendum, and that changed, to shoreline zone a freshwater wetland. This is in the weeds, Kevin. To shoreline zone a freshwater wetland, it has to be 10 or more contiguous acres. Our subdivision ordinance has no minimum size for a freshwater wetland. So it just really clarifies that. Next one. This one is just rewriting this section about staff review committee, minor amendments to site plan approval. And it doesn't change anything, it just makes it easier to read. It was really unclear before, it said this ordinance applies if it's 1,000 square feet, but it didn't say if the existing structure was 1,000 square feet, the amendment was 1,000 square feet. And so I reached out to the town attorney for some advice, and this is what they gave us.
Okay.
And last one is the floodplain management ordinance. This is a recommendation from Sue Baker, who is the state administrator of the floodplain program. These two provisions that we're striking has to do with lobster shacks. The language that's in there is contradictory to the rest of the language in the ordinance. So the ordinance says you can do it, and then VIM and VIN place additional restrictions. So it was her recommendation to strike that when we had a chance, and this is our chance to do it.
Yeah.
So nothing really interesting.
Good work, though.
Thank you.
You have a big turnout at the public hearing?
There were 3 people. Yeah.
Lasted 17 minutes.
Yeah, it was,
Oh,
they're not really
I
interesting.
heard 33 minutes. Which was it?
Comp plan was 17, planning board was 30.
Planning board was
Okay.
33, yeah.
Okay.
I heard a 33 being bantered around out there. I have no trouble with the order. Usually,
Okay.
there's something we
Nope,
want to
me
switch,
neither.
but there's nothing controversial in the
So
order this
Article
year.
10 is the one to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to enter into a multi-year lease with David W. Moody and Patricia A. Moody, the duration of which may not exceed their lifetime, to operate and maintain a private wharf for commercial fishing and/or marine activities on town-owned property located at the end of Wood Landing Road on terms and conditions that the select board deems to be in the best interest of the town and substantially in the form as provided in a document entitled Lease Agreement for the Wood Landing Road Property. And you had that earlier tonight on your
Yep.
agenda.
Yep.
And then we move into budget items, and I would say that Article 11 is the only one where voters can actually increase the amount, because we write it in such a way that it does not close the loop. It just says to see what some of the voters will raise and appropriate, and we give recommendations or suggestions, but that is the only article that could be increased. Everything else has a cap on it.
They could feel welcome to if they'd like. We won't
Yeah,
object.
Exactly.
And then we move into general administration, memberships, the various offices of the town, assessing, tax collector, town clerk, code enforcement, planning, recycling, transfer, animal control, harbor management, recreation and community services, recreation programs, employee benefits, Cemeteries, the repair and maintenance of cemeteries. Primarily, we're helping 5 private cemeteries with their care of veterans' graves. We also have to maintain town facilities, vehicles, and properties. We have a budget for that. Article 27 is a little different. It's to see if the town will vote to appropriate up to $77,870 of unassigned fund balance, which includes $27,870 of insurance proceeds from the salt shed claim to rebuild the damaged section of the building. We've had some problems up there with the salt shed, and we're thinking a $75,000 budget would be adequate to address that repair.
Should be.
Okay. I mean, obviously, we won't spend it all if we don't have to, but, you know, when you start looking at these projects, one thing leads to another.
Yeah, the longer you wait, the more expensive it gets. Yeah.
So, anyway, there's that article. Then we get into Mitchell Field. There is a monitor, a proposed monitor for $9,000 in that budget. We are also asking in the following article to appropriate up to $50,000 from unassigned fund balance for the removal of hazardous materials from the Sentry Building at Mitchell Field, and to authorize the Select Board to accept and expend any grant funds for this purpose. You know, that is the building at the entrance. We have a proposal that indicates that would cost about $50,000. We're trying to address these over time. I think the last one would be the generator building, which is really quite expensive to deal with in terms of hazardous material removal.
Pick away at them.
But we're making progress. Then we have the road budget, snow removal, maintenance, road commissioner's salary and travel. We have a proposal for some money to go into our capital improvement fund for roads. Our project for 2026 is the Ocean Street Embankment project, and we have received money from FEMA to do that project. We're estimating that to be around $410,000. We have a proposal for our continued 24/7 paramedic coverage with Maine Health or Midcoast Hospital. We also have an article to continue our Department of Safety. We have an article that would allocate money to the 3 volunteer departments in Harpswell, Harpswell Neck, Ors Bailey, and Cundies. We also asked the voters to put $250,000 into an emergency services vehicle reserve for vehicles that we anticipate purchasing over the next 5 to 10 year period. We're asking voters to put $300,000 more in the recycling center capital reserve, and this is for phase 2, the building project. We also need permission to enter into a multi-year contract with Cumberland County for emergency communication services. And the sum of that contract for 2026 is $45,813. Then we have our law enforcement contract with Cumberland County for dedicated law enforcement in Harpswell. And then we also have a separate contract with the county for marine wardens who kind of oversee the shellfish program and enforce that. And they also are deputies as well. We ask for $9,000 to cover, well, $7,000 to cover boat operations and maintenance, and then $2,000 for potential marine resources and shellfish conservation projects or activities. And we are requesting money for general assistance and for a number of health and welfare agencies that the town has been asked to contribute to. That would include Midcoast Hunger, People Plus, Harpswell Aging at Home. Those are the 3 that receive the most funding from Harpswell. Next article includes Ors Island Library, Cundies Harbor Library, Historical Society, Pajepscot Historic Center, money for memorial observances for Bailey Island Library Hall. We do not include the Harpswell Business Association. That's no longer in existence. We have money for Harpswell Neck Physical Education Association, Maine Public Broadcasting, and for community fireworks display. Then Article 43 is for community broadcasting, and I don't know if you want to talk now about your recommendation or wait on that one. Then we have $20,000 for our property tax assistance program, and then we are asking for $160,000 for various capital reserve accounts, $75,000 for the town facilities, $60,000 for vehicles, $10,000 for boat and motor replacement, $5,000 for office equipment, and $10,000 for dry hydrant. The next article would be for our short and long-term principal and interest payments, and I do think you may hear from the treasurer next week. If we're not going to borrow this spring, we won't have, we had budgeted for one interest payment in the fall.
We won't need it.
But if we borrow in the fall, we won't need it. So I think you're going to see a reduction in that number next week. And then from there on, most of the articles are considered more like housekeeping articles. You have to set the interest rate on unpaid taxes. It was 6% in 2025, and the state allows you, the highest interest rate you can charge on delinquent taxes is 7. So I don't know if you want to stay with 6. And typically, whatever the town sets for delinquent taxes, it then also will give that for any abated taxes. If somebody applies for an abatement and receives it, they also get interest, since we've been holding their money. You know, just other articles that allow the select board to apply for grants. And then, you know, it also allows you to sell property by quitclaim deed if we acquire it, but there is a process and procedure you have to follow. It allows you to sell personal property of the town that is deemed excess, but you're to do it through a public bid or other competitive process. And then we have our final article, which authorizes the town to use, like, we're looking at $2,700,000 from non-property tax revenue, $600,000 from unassigned fund balance, $350,000 from revenue sharing, and then there will be an estimated amount of homestead exemption and Betty reimbursement that we get from the state. But all of those numbers will keep us below what used to be called LD1, but it's really no longer something you have to follow under state law. So we're at 55 articles, and unless we're missing something or you add something, that might be where we end up.
Sounds good.
So any feedback or suggestions or, okay,
No,
all right,
It's good.
I'm good.
very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Public comment?
Donna, well, people know me Donna Frizzoli, but I'm now really Donna Chipman, and I saw that my husband came up here and had to speak for the TV station last week, and so I just am here to answer some questions because basically his job is policy, and I've been at the TV station here in Harpswell for about 25 years, and prior to coming to Harpswell, I worked for a government channel for 5 years. There was a big difference between the two organizations, as the government channel I worked for in 1995 was obligated by ordinance to film every meeting, every committee meeting, everything. And when I came to Harpswell, the only thing that was on TV was the select board meeting, until Donna Black pushed for the planning board to be on. So that's my background, government access television, and I was interested in coming to Harpswell because I like the public education government component, the three of them. So Matt had some questions for Dave about the TV station last week, so I just wanted to come in. I don't see you guys very often because I'm up on the hill, but you know, if you have any questions, I'm always happy to come in and talk to you about the television station. It's kind of a passion for me. When I first started here, it was 10 hours a week, and I had 3 other jobs. And I continued with that until they asked me to be the station manager. Not sure that was such a great idea for me or not, because soon I had all the jobs. So, and so I found myself by myself most of the time doing everything. And so now we have, I have a local woman, young woman, she's in her 20s, that she's been working for me now for about 3 or 4 years and is learning everything that she needs to know about running the television station. And we've hired a station operator to take over Dave's job up there operating the station, Jim Babarski Sr., and he's doing a fantastic job. And so I just want you all to know I wasn't like dying or anything, because I felt like last week that you thought I was too old for the job or whatever, but, I'm a pretty healthy person. I have 2 relatives who live to be over 100, and I'm hoping those are in my genes, so, yeah.
Well, don't take it that way. What I meant was, I needed to see, God forbid you get sick. What's the plan? And David said he's working on it. So.
Yeah, we're working on it. Like I said, Rose has been with us now for almost 4 years, I think, and she's doing a great job, and Jim has come in, and he's doing a great job. But I also wanted to talk to you about, what our expenses and financial situation looked like this year, which was, we got $87,580 from the town. And I'm old school. When I started out, everything came through the franchise fees, and I had no idea what the town was getting for franchise fees this year. So it's, and then that's not the way the town wrote up their articles for town meeting. They use raise and appropriate, but I always said, it's like a wash. Where the money is coming only from TV subscribers to cable, the franchise fees. It's not everybody that's paying it. In the past, the internet subscribers also had to pay franchise fees, but Congress, in their ultimate wisdom, said it was an informational service and not an entertainment service. And we all know it's an entertainment service, if anything else. But anyway, we also got we brought in $22,008.08, and we got about $20 in interest. And our actual expenses this year were $92,000, just over $92,000. And I have started working less hours because I didn't want to ask for more money. So I'm giving up some of my hours so that the station operator can have more hours. Yep. So with the, as the equipment gets more modernized, I think there'll be less labor, it'll be less labor intensive, so I anticipate that, that'll be, right now it's pretty labor intensive, what we have to do. And as things improve, it should become less labor intensive and less time for employees, unfortunately, but that's the way technology works. So, Matt, do you have any questions?
Nope. I was kind of where Kevin was at. I just wanted to make sure that you guys had a long-term plan, because I wasn't insinuating that you're going to die tomorrow by any means. But I'm assuming that at some point you would like to stop working and.
Oh, well, my brother told me my grandfather started working at 16 years old in a cotton mill in a mill in New Hampshire. So he's one of these kids that was working in the mills when he was 16 years old. And my family, I grew up in Rumford, and it's a mill town, and my family worked in the mill. And my brother told me that at 70 years old, they had to leave. I don't know if that's still the case or not. And that my grandfather was dragged out of there kicking and screaming because he did not want to stop working at age 70. So anyway, that's just, my genetics and my work history, the way I was brought up to work. And So anyway.
And the only other thing I would add is it's not my organization or anything like that. So I'm not trying to tell you how to run your organization or anything, but I feel as though when we're funding the government part of the station and we're funding the communication department of town, those two funding mechanisms are kind of overlapping and we're dual funding for the same purpose.
Well,
And I would like to see more emphasis, I guess, maybe on the public access and the educational part of the PEG, and then because the town seems to be taking the reins on the government aspect of that broadcasting, and I think it would be easier to appropriate the funds, if more of the station was focused on public access and education and less on government.
Well,
if that makes sense.
I don't agree with you on that, Nat, because, and I respect your opinion, but we have been playing the school board meetings for 25 years, and they're online, and they still give them to us to play. We're a public education and government channel. Not everybody wants to look, not everybody goes on the internet. You'd be amazed how many people in this town that don't want to go on the internet. They don't want to spend their
Maine is
time.
the 7th worst internet connectivity in the nation, so I'm well aware we have
And
terrible
it's not
internet
only
connections.
that. It's not only that. It's people who, we have an elderly population, and there are people who just don't get out of the house, and they don't spend, maybe they're bedridden. I mean, there are lots of reasons why people would be watching a television as opposed to going on the internet to watch meetings. And the other thing, and I wasn't going to bring this up, but your audio here is horrible. And I have to spend my time, labor intensively, to increase the audio levels so you can actually hear what is being said on television or even on the internet. I go online and listen to your meetings on YouTube, and I have my computer turned all the way up, and I can't hear what's being said. So right off the bat, I have to lift the audio at least 6 or 7 dB, just right off the bat. And then I have to go slowly through it and raise people's levels so people at home can hear what you're saying. And there's got to be a better way. I mean, that is so if you go to Harpswell Community TV and you listen to the meetings, you're going to actually hear them. I can't say that for the government meetings at this point. But I can see down the line that might be an issue if there's no more TV and people are just watching YouTube, maybe. But right now, that's not the case, So it seems like a duplication of effort, but, it really isn't. It isn't, because you might not be watching it on TV, but there are a lot of people who are. And would you like me I could circulate a petition, I guess, and find out how many people actually watch. My board of directors is starting a survey so they can get an idea of how people are getting their information. But I just think it hasn't gotten to where you think it's gotten. It's not there yet.
But I think it's heading there.
It might be.
I think it's a road that we're clearly going down, and we're investing more money in it to improve the areas where we're lacking.
Matt, do you have internet on your boat?
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you have internet on your boat? Your smartphone?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I've lost my train of thought. The other issue is that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yes, I was interrupted by Mr. Chipman.
Broadcast.
happens.
Yes, it does.
Straighten them out when you get home.
I will.
Broadcast.
I will. But no, let's go back to where we were. We were talking about. Anyway, I see your point, and maybe someday that it will get to that point, but I don't think it's there yet. And I think that there's things that need to be done here to improve your government meetings. And I'm saying this as, somebody who worked as a government employee doing video for 5 years before I came into public access. And the other thing about public access is people only use the station for public access when there's some controversy, some big controversy in town. And that, let me tell you, is no fun. All of the other stuff that you see, I've done. And I do it as a volunteer, because I've been told that I cannot be paid doing things outside the building. And I know that's what people want. So maybe the board will look at that differently in the future. But I figure if I'm going to an event and I have the camera, I'm gonna film. If I'm going somewhere, I'm gonna film it for everybody. That's just my mentality, my work ethic, if you will. I think if I want to see it, other people want to see it. So I volunteer. So anyway, I came to answer your questions, Matt, and I understand where you're coming from. I just think we're the PEG channel, and if people go to our YouTube channel, they're going to find everything. They're going to find the county commissioners, they're going to find the town of Harpswell, they're going to find the school board, they're going to find the public access programs they're interested in, everything, all in one place. So, thank you for your time.
Sure.
Unless you have more questions.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, anytime. Anybody else? You say hi to your kids again?
Hi, they better be in bed. No, I missed the first public comment, so I had to wait till the end. I just wanted you guys to know that I'm working with the Resiliency and Sustainability Committee to hopefully apply for a grant to replace the boat launch at Garrison Cove. It's something, we've talked about it since we heard this grant was coming up. We've talked to fisheries and we've talked to marine resources and all the harbor master committees. It's due at the beginning of next month, so it will come to you guys, but I just wanted you to know. It's a DOT Working Waterfront Infrastructure Grant, and I'm really excited about it because the boat launch is in rough shape.
Yep. Did you happen to see the quote from 8-9 years ago? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a doozy.
I think it's going to be significantly more than that. The cool thing about this grant is that it includes design and construction. Most grants are just design or planning. So it's for up to $2 million. But I don't.
It called for a berm and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which would be
Build it up.
But,
So this project does have to include some resiliency work, and the resiliency can be in the boat launch, it could be in the berm. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work out, but just wanted to let you guys know.
But it's proposed to be all within land that we currently own,
It has
correct?
to be land.
Yeah,
It has to be
yeah,
municipally owned land.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we do own that strip right along there.
Yeah.
Also.
yeah.
Yep.
And Margaret, thank you for making the wood bank run today.
Oh, you're welcome. I was really excited for a field trip. I never get out of the office.
You already spoke.
I know, but I'm just really excited about something because for a very long time, I've wanted weather and tide charts on our channel to run all the time, and finally, that's happening.
On 14.2.
On 14.2 off-air antenna. So anytime you need to know what the weather is or want to know what the tides are, you can go there and find out. And also, I'm looking at expanding that channel in other ways, and we received a grant for a server that should help us to move in that direction. So I think there's a lot that the off-air can offer. As far as cable goes, our hands are tied, and we can't do anything without the cable. And also, our hands are tied with the FCC, but we'll see what to do. Anyway, I'm excited about 14.2, and I hope you guys will be too. Thank you.
All right. Other business?
So I do have some other business. Back in November,
Be all right in a minute.
the board discussed a possible amendment to the GEI contract because of the third-party testing.
Yep.
And at the time, the
Yep.
board approved up to $20,000 for
no,
that
it's more than
purpose.
that.
No. So
You'll be part of that.
that came in at $5,000.
Wow.
All right.
However,
Good news.
I did
like
have to
it.
call you all a while ago when Wyman and Simpson, they were working at the boat launch site, and I think I explained it to all of you individually, but we now have the change order. There was a third piling
Yep.
near the boat launch that needed to be in a, what do they call it, a rock socket?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so they had the equipment there, they were going to be able to drill, but it was not in the plan to do that. So you all said, okay, yep, we understand. And we now have received that change order, so it's a $20,000 increase in
Of course
the,
it is.
in the contract. The contract with Wyman and Simpson is $1,553,400, and that's gonna add $20,000 to it.
So still, we're only
So,
5,000 behind.
I think, if we can look at it that way, it's
I
a
do look at
little,
it that way.
a little helpful, but I do need you to approve that, change order with Wyman and Simpson for $20,000. You already approved that GEI up to 20, but we're not using
Right.
20.
Okay, I so move.
I so second.
I don't see any discussion. All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, that's good. I'm done.
You good? Mm-hmm. In that case, we're adjourned. Hey,
All
enjoy
right.
San